Hey there, it's Chris. Welcome back to the next part of the mid-sculpture phase of the Yoshitaka Amano mobile platform project. Once again, we have an incredibly long name we have to kind of get through whenever we say what this project is. And if you remember last time, we went and kind of roughed out the legs. We detailed out the feet. The shoes actually didn't need that much detail. Again, if you look at those little kind of pizza slices on the side, I'm always going to call them that because it just is. So we got the shoes kind of done. And we started kind of roughing out the leg structure on here. And just real quick, I went and rolled out some more clay right before this whole thing started. And I just kind of threw it on here to kind of give you an idea that once these legs are done, really, really quickly, this thing is going to start to take shape and kind of form in here. So it's not going to take much once this part is in to kind of get where it wants to go. But that said, we're not quite at that stage yet. Right now, we're still at a stage where it looks kind of bad. So let's try to make this look kind of less bad at this point. So as I had mentioned, I believe on the previous session, is if we come back to this image, again, we only have two images we can go off of. Mid is not a main character of the game, so there is very little to go off of. If you go to this one, you can see his cloak kind of starts somewhere in the chest area and then kind of opens up down as it goes. Whereas if we come back to the image we're actually kind of going off of on the side, it looks like it connects a little more kind of towards either the navel or just kind of down by a belt area in here. So I think that's the one I want to go to because that's also going to make cutting him down the middle during the hardening section so I can kind of pull the two ends apart much easier. And again, being able to pull him apart will make painting these legs much easier in the end than the alternative. So really all I want to get done today is get this kind of into a place where we can start to harden it next time. They're actually maybe off camera I can harden it. If I do wind up hardening this thing off camera, and you want to know how that process is done, I'd recommend either going through the Kai Shulin or the Bank Shishigami projects. And if you go through the playlist, the specific episodes regarding that they're labeled right there, which one to go off of. So what we need right now is, we kind of have a boot cut thing going on here, but if we're going to do that, we need to have a couple of, got to start putting some folds and whatnot into this, and especially down on the bottom, this is definitely going to have a little bit of foldage going on. So let's go and see if we can get some kind of detail-y things going on with this. That would be kind of awesome. Get this to look like what it's supposed to look like in the end. That's not the tool I thought it was. Gotta make sure I'm using the right things. That would be helpful. Yeah, we can kind of bring these. Bring that down. Like I said, we're just kind of bring this in. A little piece of clay. We're not going to need much in the way of clay on some of these things. And this would be a whole lot easier. I didn't have a band-aid on like one of my main fingers here, but that's just going to wind up being there until the end of this project basically completely ends its way out. It's just unfortunate, but it is the way it's going to wind up being in the end. It's going to be unavoidable. Anytime you have one of those kind of fingernail issues, it just takes forever to work its way out. And I can actually 100% do this without the Band-Aid on at this point, but it's still, that would just create one more thing for you to stare at, even though it is better, question mark, looking than it has been. I mean, the old nail is gone, but still. we can do better than how it looks right now. That's it. I'm just gonna add a little bit of kind of crinkly stuff in here. We have it all on. Again, you can generally you can make folds either kind of additive or subtractive depending how deep or whatnot you need. For this type of stuff, kind of additive seems to be an okay way to go about doing some of this. It's kind of getting the job done. Actually, if we're going to bend that down. Now this line is easy because it's generally just kind of, everything's kind of coming straight down. So all this is doing is just adding a little bit of maybe visual interest on here. It's not going to be much on this. It's just to keep it from being a cylinder going down its leg, or its leg, his leg. Again, very subtle on this leg. The other leg's going to have probably a little bit more going on, but this one can be a little bit more subtle in its detailing just because, yeah, the leg just is what it is. Although we will need creases in here where it comes up, because this does come up a ways here, so on both sides it will kind of definitely have some folds in this area. And this is where things are going to get maybe a little trickier for me than it sometimes has been, if only because the scale of this is so much smaller than the others, but I'm generally using a very little amount of clay on the other ones, so I might be using kind of the same amount for some of these. And hopefully things don't look too large as a result of that. We're gonna find out. Let's just get things kind of, get a couple rough forms kind of started in here, and then we'll figure out as we go on that front. And I have the camera now on the other side of the project rather than the first side, because I think I was getting shadow from the camera into all the shots kind of before, so hopefully this way it keeps some of the shadow stuff out. And the quality of what you see is going to be a little bit nicer now than the quality you're looking at before. But overall, again, we're still using kind of the same techniques we had used on previous projects to just kind of get this working now. As it comes in, it stretches towards the back, so we want these kind of, any of these lines we're making to be kind of stretched back here. And again, the very back doesn't matter because the very back is 100% covered with stuff. And that's just what that's going to be. My finger's too big, or the clay piece is too small, one or the other. Not sure which. It could be a little bit of both. Okay, let's get you kind of pushed down. This is where the back of the paintbrush really kind of comes in handy to kind of push the sides in, and then we can always use a different one to just kind of redirect the flow of things as need be. The finger is still the best tool you have, just kind of, if you can get this working nicely enough, this is still kind of the best way to go about it. But when you're dealing with an incredibly small kind of space, it becomes harder to make work the way you might want it to. But once again, I still think this works really well just for doing the initial kind of push down and get it kind of in there phase. And I'm hoping this will turn into a character relatively quickly, because again, if I can already see, even though only like the first clay part was uploaded, that I already see more of you are watching these than like any of the paint stuff that was going on. So I would like to keep your interest as much as possible. I suppose I could have like music or something playing in the background too, but I'll be honest, I don't know all of like the DCMA rules, the licensing rules, what things are going to be allowable, what things may not be allowable sometime in the future, things that might be good now. It's one of those topics, or one of those situations where the rules can change, I feel like, over time, and it's just safer to not really get into that in the first place or at all, and just kind of we can use this to talk about whatever we need to talk about. But I realize that is an option if I want to try going down that, but I also don't want that to bite me in the butt later on if I were to put music stuff in the background, because I feel like the rules of things regarding that can change over time, and we don't want to deal with any kind of issues such as that as time goes on. Alright, so he's already starting to kind of get a little more up and in here. If that pool's there, I already think the back of this leg was not done well. So you may have little stuff, but it doesn't quite do what I was thinking it was going to do. Or rather, I don't know why I did what I did. Sometimes things feel right until you kind of look at it and you go like, "Whoa, wait a minute. That ain't good. Something's wrong here." Okay, so we need, if we're bending around, we're going to have kind of spokes of this coming down in the area. So let's get some of this stuff actually out of here. He has baggy stuff, but it's not like full parachute pant things going. So let's just kind of restart that one from scratch. And we're gonna fix some of this. And let's see, kind of like the other shoe, or the other pant leg, we're gonna want to put a definite crease as it comes over the top of the shoe here, for sure. For sure, that one's a guarantee. And even without even pushing it in, it looks a little more correct. So that's probably a good sign on that front. Yeah, once I get the hardened, we get into the upper cloak. This thing is going to start singing real quick. So our goal is now just kind of, get through this phase, and hopefully, by next session, this thing's going to start jumping. Although I believe on Kai's model going back, this was like, took session 12 or 13 before we got the hardening. And I think this is like session 3 or 4. So we are going considerably faster. At the same time, we're also episode 30-something on this entire project, so this thing is just, it's definitely going places. I knew it would, but I'm definitely heading more towards a bread and butter project, next project I do. I think I have it down to what I want to do at this point, so it's just going to be a matter of kind of get to that, get kind of through this one, and we can jump on that. It should be a lot of fun. But still a little early to kind of break that out right now. We're gonna do some more of this first. All right, too much clay. Don't need that much. It's going to be a much more probably popular, I'm looking at more popular character, something people actually recognize and they know who it is instantly when it goes on. And it's not going to be kind of like the last few, and even this one, kind of more obscure. This is a more familiar game people might be familiar with, but the character is one that nobody's going to know who he is. Really, it's a minor character from the game, just in a really awesome concept art that he got put in. But next one I think is going to be more of a little more of a mainline kind of character. And yeah, it should be a little more kind of fun in that regard to then see how my treatment of that can actually compare to how other people have done that. Because again, nobody has ever done really the other ones that I've done on here. So that would be a fun kind of comparison to see how others have treated kind of a similar character, similar situation. I think it's gonna make things a little more interesting that way. But that's why if I looked, and I had the one example before of the Chrono Trigger, I was going through that with Luca on that, and I kind of showed the example for, it was one of the colorization things. I think it was doing stark colors like the whites and whatnot. You can see like if you have like your eyes are like pure white, or other things, your like teeth are pure white, it just kind of stands out like a beacon kind of thing. And yeah, we can do better than some of the professional ones that are out there in some of these cases. So being as the ones again, I think I know doing hasn't officially been narrowed down, but the one I'm definitely looking at is one that has been 100% done before. Other people have definitely given it their own kind of go in there, and it's just, yeah, it'd be interesting to see how my version of it will compare to other versions of it. But it should also be more in my bread and butter than, say, the carving side and all that of this has been. But this has been good. I've been learning a lot from this. I mean, the feet themselves, just kind of the platform itself, I didn't realize that was going to take like 2.5, 3 weeks to do. That was not at all in my kind of estimation for this. So we are definitely learning some things as this goes. And I think in the end that's going to be good. Again, for any kind of future project, we now have maybe more realistic expectations on how long things go, and we can kind of base off of that. But it's important to have these types of projects, kind of switch things up every now and again, and kind of try a different skill set at something. You find maybe some things work, maybe some things don't work. This is part of what the trial and error kind of comes from. It's important to have these. Ah, my fingers can't fit. My fingers can't fit anywhere on this entire thing. I want to smooth this stuff out with my fingers so bad, and I can't. Okay, we're getting into something that's halfway decent. It is looking like he's kind of stepping on his pant leg here. It has that long, really baggy kind of feel, which again is exactly what I'm kind of going towards. I don't think that's a bad thing. So if we bring it down, if we get from there to bring it down, we are now at least pooling down. I don't like how this foot is bending. Although I can bend these things a little bit as it goes and I actually put it in. So that shouldn't be an issue. That should not be an issue as this goes. Once again, we need half of the clay I had on there. As long as you get to a point where you can almost see the clay I'm rolling on my finger, that means we're getting kind of to what we need. So a little bit more coming down off of the knee here. Let's go a little more, a little more, a little more. We get one more that kind of comes up. Okay, that's a little too big. We want to keep these kind of separate. So let's use U to get that in. We want to smooth it out. Smoothing it out as such. That kind of comes in. I think I want this to kind of come in a little bit more on that front. So we come in, at least now it's bent, it's in there, and even if the detail is not right, the cloak's going to cover half of this back part anyway. So stop worrying about certain things I don't need to worry about. There's really not that much. All you see is like the top of the leg here a little bit, and that's really about it. The cloak really covers a lot of this. So I shouldn't be freaking out over everything that goes on this. We're going to be okay, even if it doesn't look okay right at the start. Okay, so if we're doing it on one half of the knee, we have to do the same thing kind of on the other. That's the way folds kind of work when you have a crease like in your knee over here. So let's get that in. There we go. We're only 20 minutes in. Okay, I feel like I've done more now in this 20 minutes than like the entire previous session. Because at least now it kind of looks like something's happening. He has bell bottoms going on this leg. This leg's worker pants. This leg is bell bottoms. So something's not right in that regard. But okay, this can just be kind of a more subtle something down here. Now again, folds kind of come in V's if you do it. So if you are kind of doing fold stuff, they're generally not just going to be a line going across, a line going. Let's kind of get two of these. Let's get a couple of these things. So your folds generally aren't going to be like one up here, one next to it, and one kind of next to it. That's something like that is not how folds work. Generally speaking, if you're going to have any kind of something, you work in V's. One is going to come across that way. One's going to come back up here. One's then going to come back that way, and they get kind of staggered with little kind of V's. So that's going to be more how a series of folds would be. They might be either far apart, they could be close together, but that's generally how they're going to work. So if I have something coming in here, we might have just a little, I'm just going to do a real kind of subtle one kind of coming up just to kind of let's kind of bring it in just a little. So if anything, I want going down to be dominant. And it kind of just, so I have this one coming from the side, kind of coming up, and then it comes back up here. And it may or may not be right, but this is going to be one of those, I'm going to make some things on here. I think I'm not going to harden things during the session. I think I might just sit back, look at this after the session, see which things feel right, which things don't feel right in the end, and then we'll probably harden this off camera. I'll probably be substantial enough on camera here that it'll be fine, and then harden it off camera, and then we'll be good at that point. Okay, also we're going to have stuff kind of coming down from inside here, although this is also 100% not going to be seen. We're going to have stuff kind of come down. Yeah, if you're coming from an inside crease, like say the side of the knee here, it's going to have a bunch kind of coming from one area. If you're coming from kind of the bottom here, up top, we're coming from one area. Down here, we're going to be coming kind of from one area. So depending where we are, if we're pooling on the bottom, then it kind of comes from the V's. If we're not necessarily pooling in the same way, then no, not so much. So we're going to have a couple of these guys down here. Make sure I'm actually on camera, might be good. Get my hands in a good place so I can actually do something. I'm dropping him. Which is okay right now, because again, he's so small and I have so few like hard details in this. Even if I am quote unquote detailing him right now, these are such kind of minor details. Even if I drop him, it's not really a problem. I'm not super concerned with that. Now, as you can see, they're not starting at the same point. One is kind of starting down a little below the other, so we kind of want these to spring from the same area. What we can do is we can kind of push that in just a little bit, and it can then come right from down in there. Push this one up just a little. Get up. And that can kind of spring from there. And it's just kind of going down the leg. And we can kind of do just a little bit up on here. Now, this is not a great folding workshop. Like I said, I feel like I haven't been at this stage now in quite a while because I did do an entire wood doing project between. So it's been a while since I've had to deal with kind of folds such as this before. So bear with it not looking 100% correct. We're a little bit of a work in progress on this, but overall, his overalls are kind of getting there. Let's see, that one's actually not much because we want that to be expanding. Let's maybe have one more going down. This leg. This leg actually wouldn't have much of anything because it's more in compression where the leg is straight. This is more stretched over here, so we're going to have a little more on the top side of that than we are on the bottom. But this leg, being the way it is, would have more folds down here than the other one does. I don't know why it always feels like I'm kind of halfway whispering into the camera when I talk. I feel like my voice has got to be different between these videos and the ones I do for the ultras. It just got to be. I have to listen to these things back to back. I feel like it's almost like a different voice that comes out altogether. Let's see, let's get a little more of this one actually down just a little further. I guess there's a little something there, but it's a little more subtle, and that's okay. I see this kind of starting to come, and I can turn that into actually something. Wrap it around a little, and realize I'm not liking how that detail turned out at all. I feel like I just messed something up. If I knew what I was doing, this would be a whole lot easier and faster and nicer on your guys' part. But do have a little bit of a let's relearn that. Especially because there is no real image to kind of go off of on this. All I have is this side image and that's it. So some of this is just trying to use what I think I know about areas, and then you realize I don't 100% know everything about certain things, but I know enough to get myself into trouble. And that's part of the learning curve on stuff like this is, yeah, you get yourself into that point where it's like, I know enough on how to get myself into trouble and not necessarily solve everything. But in the end, it's going to work out. He's kind of a little minor dude in this whole, well, he's kind of going to be the major guy, but he is kind of a minor dude. And again, when I go and stick all this stuff on him, we kind of put that on here, all of kind of these details are really going to disappear. Let's get you, because again, this cloak is coming like all the way up there. So all you're really going to see is that side part. A lot of this upper is going to be covered. Upper part of this is entire. So yeah, all those folds I was doing back here, they're 100% covered. All we're really going to see is like the pooling down on the bottom, and that's it in the end. So I really shouldn't worry too much about this. Because really then, at that point, we are kind of where we need to get to. And I'm not sure I need to do much more than that then, aside from trying to make myself feel better at this. So if that's going to be that, it's going to wind up being a shorter session, I think. Or I may go and disappear for a little bit, kind of touch things up off camera, and I can do hardening on it, maybe. So let's see, where is this going to come up and kind of match? If it's going to come in, it's probably going to start something like this on the front side of things. So we're probably looking at around there-ish. Right around there. I can do the cut. And again, we're going to break him into a leg section and a body section. So what I can do is I can make the line down here where that break is going to occur. I'm going to get it all the way in till I hit I can hear the little kind of clink when I hit the metal inside. That's what we're going for. And then when we go, we'll have the body then can then be made a little bit bigger. And actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to shave a little bit off of this, just so I have room to put clay back on here again. Because it's not a shirt going on, we're going to be matching this upper part to the lower part. And I want to put some clay, I want to have clay on there just to kind of work with. I know I'm going to be touching things up on this break section. So I'm going to carve a little bit off of this upper one and then repack it out again with fresh clay after this whole thing gets hardened. So this just gives me some playroom I'll be able to work with when I get to that point. Once again, back here is not going to matter as much, but let's just be diligent and just kind of follow the game plan on this. That cut a little deeper than I probably needed to. Okay, he's now a little skinnier dude. If we thought he was smallish before, he is smaller now. but this gives me room to put clay on there next time after this gets hardened. So it will help in the future. We can also now very clearly see where this cut edge is. It's going to be right there. So let's just smooth this down a little bit. And there we go. We now have skinnier guy, baggier pants. We in there. Let me just disappear off to the side, kind of see how I feel when I hold it up against my image, which again is somewhat difficult to tell how it feels up against that because, again, there's only so much leg showing on this to really see anything. But in general, we're pretty dang... I may not be 100% there. I think I'm going to do a little bit of touch-up stuff off camera. It's just, again, for fine details, it's easier to do that. Plus, it gives me time to maybe sit back and kind of evaluate how some of this worked. I'm sure some of my folds I'm not super pleased with, but I think we're just about there, and we're pretty much ready for hardening. Again, the back end, I don't really care if you're not going to see it ever. But what is visible is not in terrible place. We have the pooling on top, we have the shoes done, it looks like pants going in, we do have a little bit of stuff going on up top, so we're kind of in there. So that's where I'm probably going to be ending this part. I don't think I'm going to come back for the hardening, but we'll see. I'm just going to end this as if we are ending this, and I'm not going to see you again until... But next session we're going to start on that cloak. We're going to get that thing going, get his arms going, get the cloak going, and start turning him into an actual character. So next time, this will be a little more of a reality right there. And it should be good. And until then, and until that next time comes, enjoy. And we're back. You know what? We're not going to leave this thing early. We're going to go and we're actually going to do this hardening on camera. So it's actually the next day. Had some time off, kind of did a little kind of touching up on here to really kind of smooth off some of the folds we had put down in there. And, well, haven't really shown how to do any of the hardening yet, so might as well do the process on this one. So first things first, what we're going to be doing is I'm going to be using my old friend here, the Mineral Spirits. And we're going to do kind of a wash over everything on the character here, and what that's going to do is effectively it's going to kind of melt off any kind of fingerprints and really minor kind of imperfections in that regard, just so when it hardens we don't really need to see our fingerprints and stuff on here, so we just kind of very lightly melt off just some of those kind of little details. And this is a smaller model, so this shouldn't take very long to do. I'm not pushing it on here, I'm just letting the liquid kind of do its thing. If you push it on, you start getting brush marks and stuff on here, and we don't really want that. So just let this do what it's gonna do. That said, we kind of have a full day right now because just got back from like a 6.5 mile run, followed by doing that 250 lunges right afterwards. So we're gonna crash right after this thing is done. I'm just about at that point where I can just kind of keep doing lunges without stopping. We're just about there. Although I had to stop this time because somebody actually stopped me asking for directions, and I just kind of lost the flow after that. But kind of an awkward way to stop it. That hasn't popped up before, but it is what that is. But we're getting there. That goal is about 400 now by the end of the month. So that we are well on our way to that, and that shouldn't be an issue getting to the 1/4 mile there. That said, I'm just kind of going once over everything. And now that that is done, I don't want to go over things over again the more times, because now if I bring this over a section I've already gone over once before, Now that it's kind of liquefied-ish a little bit and super soft, if I put any pressure whatsoever, the bristles have more and more of a chance to make marks on here the more layers we do. So we don't want to go too far on that. We just like get it on there, and that's all we need. Now he's all nice and shiny, which will be the exact opposite thing, because once he gets hardened, it is not going to be shiny at all. It is going to be a 100% matte finish. So unfortunately, some of the details will kind of blend into the background on that front. So what we're going to be using for this is I have my good friend Rotisserie, if you've seen some of my other projects, and I got this back in college, and it's been really good at just kind of serving as my oven for this. So this one should have no issue of burning. He is so dang small. Usually if you get things on the upper end of this, there's a chance of things burning on here. Anything down below is not going to have that problem, because again, there is a heat disparity between the top and bottom. And actually, the way I do it is I'm going to put this in, heat it up for a while, and then turn it halfway through, or most of the way through, and then do the back side. So I'll always start with the front side facing the heat source in the back, and then I'll turn it so the back side faces it. So if something does burn, it would be the back end that would hit that. But again, he is so low in here that there's a greater chance of him falling over, because the weight kind of goes to the back, than there is of him actually burning in there. But he is so light that I don't see that being an issue. And being as he's skinnier than some of the other ones, I probably don't need to go as long as I have on the others. Usually it's about 5 minutes, between 4.5 to 5 minutes on the first side. And then I turn around, it's like between 2 and 3 minutes on the back side. But being as he's so small, it could be less time than that. However, because he's so much lower to the ground, we have cooler air on the ground than up top. So I'm just going to keep my same hardening schedule on this, and we're just going to go with that. So let's see. And okay, so I have a stopwatch going on this, so we can kind of keep track of that and pay no attention to things going on the side here. There's absolutely nothing happening off camera that you need to see. And bazam! While we're doing this, might as well go over my 2 Resident Ninja here that I've done to kind of give an idea of what we're going for and what we don't have to happen, because we don't need to stare at that for 5 minutes or 4.5 minutes, whatever, while it does its thing. So part of the reason I'm doing this thing in layers, let's start with Ryu. Ryu is one of kind of my earlier models. You can see he wasn't painted. He has the copper core, so he's a little kind of wobbly in here, and things may happen to him. We kind of learn things from earlier times as we go. But one of the reasons or at least one of the reasons we're doing this thing in layers is Ryu is kind of a big guy. He has huge muscles up here. He has huge legs, huge chest. He had a number of things going on. And when I did him the first time, he doesn't come apart in pieces or anything. He is just one big kind of block. And so when I did him, I made the human kind of the male figure first, hardened that, and then I kind of did all the detailing after that and on top of him. And because I tried to harden such a large chunk, like I said, his chest is huge in here, the legs are huge. So when you're dealing with a large piece of things, you can see as you go upside right in here, there's a crack that formed in that area. If you can kind of see under the arm here, there's another crack that kind of formed down here. So when you're dealing with a large chunk of clay, you can get kind of cracks that form where heat kind of builds up inside and then wants to find a place to expand and get out. So one of the things I do now is we're going to do things in layers, do kind of a smaller section first, and then kind of put layers onto it, so we don't wind up with that kind of same situation. I could have brought Auron out for this. My Auron model also has kind of some of those situations going on. But I remember this one down here is kind of the most visible of stuff. I think I tried to re-glue it, so now it's kind of glistening a little bit. that isn't helping things. But that is a downside to doing things all at once that then we don't want to have to deal with. And the reason we have Bang over here is if you're new to this segment, he's actually the first one I actually recorded and put out online. Not technically the first one recorded, but he's the first one I actually put out on YouTube to do this. And as I mentioned before, we're going to have Arc Model being able to be taken apart in pieces. So similar to Bang here, as soon as this thing actually hardens, I'm going to finish cutting that thing apart, and we're going to pull it apart into two separate pieces in the end. So I can paint the legs separately. You also have, like, say, we can have the head and the hair and all that can come off separately. So the way mid here is going to work is the leg is going to be one part, the body and cloak will be a second, and then we're going to have probably the head and hair will be a third piece, and that's all he's going to wind up being in the end. And given his size, if it doesn't break apart nicely and it kind of wants to be a jerk on that, kind of like how this one's being a jerk on trying to go back in. Hey, there we go. It kind of breaks apart really badly, or it just doesn't feel right. I can always put that one together, because even if I do him as one whole piece, I think he's going to wind up being fine in the end, just painting as I need to. It makes it slightly easier if I can do it this way rather than break things apart, or rather than try to get a brush underneath, say, the cloak on the back and whatnot. And we are sitting at 4 minutes now, so just about ready to flip him. No, I figured I might as well. Part of the reason I brought him rather than Arn is, I mean, I have two ninjas I've done. I might as well put my ninjas together. You can't have two ninjas here and not use it like that. Okay, I'm going to put some gloves on because this is going to be a little bit toasty. And I'm at 4:25, 26, 27. Where's the off button? Okay, 4.5 is probably fine. So we're going to come over here. Turn my stopwatch off. I should be opening that, but again, I'm not in a rush. I don't see him. He might fall over in the end. You can already see his colorization has changed a little bit. He now has a little bit of maybe a brownish kind of tinge to him. And let's get a stopwatch going. And I only really need him in here for probably about 2 minutes or so. I think he's going to be fine on the back. And I'm going to keep an eye that he doesn't just fall backwards over, because he does have the weight towards the back of him. So, although if he does, it'll ding the back, and the back's never going to be seen in the first place. And for this 2 minute span, I figured while you're here as well, this will probably be the last time showing off this little guy, just because once again we've had a lot of changes. And before I was wearing the band-aids to kind of hide the finger from view. That's not really the case anymore. Now I'm doing it just because it creates a better environment for the nail to kind of grow in. But there where we are now. We have an actual nail kind of going on here at this point. It's just about an 1/8 inch shorter than it needs to be. And along this front edge, I have like 1 ply of the old nail is left. Meanwhile, this guy is growing in. When I had the dead nail up top here, it actually hindered the ability of the new one to form, which wasn't good, and actually stopped for about 3 weeks, because the other one was just so hard in there it couldn't get into it, and actually kind of beveled the nail up top a little bit, and it kind of crinkled a bit, and it turned into, it's going to take longer to ultimately get perfect than what it is. But now with that gone, it's been about 5 days since it fell off. There's already measurable difference between where it was before and where it is now. So we are getting positive stuff going on that front. Like I said, the Band-Aid now isn't so much to hide it. It's more just kind of give it a better environment to heal in. And I'm guessing it's probably going to be another 3 or 4 weeks before that's ultimately done. So, okay, we're sitting at 2 minutes now, so I'm just going to give it a few more seconds, or unless he looks like he's about to fall. He looks like he's about to fall over now at this point. So, where are we? Let me get to 220, and I think I'll be fine. Alright, we're at 18, 19, 20. Okay, turn that off. We're going to bring him down here. I'm just going to close that so I don't burn myself on it. And here comes the hinky part. On bang, this popped off kind of, I think it was on bangs, this actually worked out kind of nicely. And on Kai's, it didn't really, or I might be thinking it might have been the other way around. But helps if I'm actually aiming at him. Let's see, it might be also helpful if I, ow, ow, ow. Okay, so I'm cutting this until I can feel the metal on the inside. So right now, all the heat did was it kind of reconfigured the crystalline structure inside, but as this so it's actually a little malleable right now. As it cools, it will actually harden. So right now, while we are malleable and not fully hardened, I can get this in here to cut him. And our goal is to cut in half. Now, I did use tape in here that I didn't want to before because it wasn't holding itself nicely together. So that's not really helping to take it apart. We lost the back. Oh well, I don't really care. That could be much worse, and that's 100% fine. But now at least we're in two parts. I'll be able to take, yeah, I don't need the tape on here. Tape can go, and this, as long as that goes in there, we're going to be able to pop this on and off. And I'm just going to then re-put some clay in here to kind of get it back together. But we're in a good place, and I did make this skinnier, so we're going to have a lot of clay going on top of this to kind of beef this out again. So we're in a good place. That's where we want to be. You can come apart, you can get together, and next time we'll officially kind of make this so it kind of slides together nicely as we want, and then we'll start working on that cloak back here, and we'll actually start getting a real character kind of forming. But until then, that's where we are on this. Yeah, this wound up being a little longer session than I wanted to, but at the same time, I did just want to get this in here and done. So it would be a shame to do the hardening off camera. But that's where we are, and until next time, enjoy.